All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we do an update for all the news that's coming out here on April the 8th as we get closer to the upcoming 2025 NFL Draft. Check out Pig and a Pickle, 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. And this video is brought to you by Mancini Sleep World. Looking to upgrade your sleep? Now's the perfect time. Our friends at Mancini Sleep World are kicking off their spring clearance sale starting Tuesday, March the 25th. And you don't want to miss any of the deals. Up to 50% off select mattresses, 2 free pillows with any Tempur-Pedic mattress purchase, plus an extra 10% off when you use our exclusive code KRUG10, K-R-U-E-G 10, and you'll get 10% off. And here's the best part. Mancini's now offers a 365-night comfort guarantee, giving you a full year to decide if your mattress is the perfect fit. On top of that, they provide free next-day delivery and a best price guarantee, so you can shop with total confidence. This spring's clearance sale runs from March 25th through April the 28th, so do not wait. Click the link in the description to shop now and experience better sleep with Mancini's Sleep World. Click in the description to make sure you use the code KRUG10 to get that 10% off. Once again, click inside the description. Make sure you use the code KRUG10, K-R-U-E-G 10, to get your 10% off. And thanks to Mancini's for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, a lot of news coming out on the Niners today. A number of different interesting nuggets that we want to review and bring to your attention. Now, let's start with this one. Christopher Knox of Bleacher Report believes the Niners should address one of their needs in free agency. I think that a lot of the thinking of the 49er fans is that free agency has come and gone. Really, free agency is in 2 parts. You have the first part where there are not a lot of good deals, and you usually spend a lot more money than you want. That was the first addition. Then there's the draft. And then everybody that signed after the draft is no longer eligible for the compensatory formula. So if you are a team that cares about getting picks in the compensatory formula, and I would assume the 49ers are, because they've probably gotten more compensatory picks than almost any team in football since the advent of the concept, that they would probably be very conservative in the early going as far as free agents. They were. They're going to secure their 3 or 4 comp picks. And then I do expect them to maybe fill in a hole or 2 via free agency between now and training camp. And Christopher Knox of Bleacher Report says the Niners ought to address their inside linebacker need with 33-year-old linebacker C.J. Mosley, who would reunite. This would be a move that would reunite Mosley and Robert Saleh. The 49ers lost several key contributors in free agency. Among them was Dre Greenlaw. And reloading the linebacker group, I think, is a major priority for the draft. And I would do it in day 3 of the draft. But if by chance you're unable to land that player in the draft, C.J. Mosley is not a bad option. He's been a productive football player going back to his time at Alabama. He's been good everywhere he's been in the NFL. He was limited to only 4 games this last year because of turf toe, and he also had a neck injury. He's also, way past his prime. I mean, he's going to turn 33 in June. He's already played his best football. He's a really good player, though. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler who spent time with the Jets under Robert Saleh, who obviously has returned to the Niners as the defensive coordinator for the upcoming season. Before Mosley's injury impacted 2024 season, he had played over 1,000 snaps in 3 consecutive years and posted a career-high defensive grade of 82.9 and 90.0 as far as a coverage grade. This is not Devondre Campbell. This is not a player that's done and nobody told the Niners, and then they just were the last to find out. This is a guy who can probably still play a little bit. Now, I think the Niners would rather fill this need in the draft. I would rather see them fill this need in the draft. Give me Chandler Martin. Give me Nick Martin. Give me David Benda. Give me Eugene Asante. Give me Carson Bruner. Give me any number of guys. I mean, I think this is a phenomenal day 3 linebacker draft. And I think I would draft 2 or 3 or 4, stacked linebackers on day 3 or sign them after the draft. I think it's that good. It's that ripe with really big-time guys. I think some of the best steals you're going to see in this draft when we look back at it 3-4 years from now is that inside linebacker. where the Eugene Asantes of the world, I think, are going to be stars, and he's projected to go in the 5th round or later. So, so there you go. I would replace the linebackers in the draft, but if the draft comes and goes and you get one, but you don't get the other, maybe you wanted to add 2 linebackers, you could only add 1. Maybe a CJ Mosley might fit, and it's nice to know that he's out there. He would be a 1-year stopgap. This would be the kind of signing that would probably send a message to fans and people around the league that the Niners view themselves as contenders this year. I think right now it's a little bit unknown, right? Do the Niners view themselves as contenders? They've left themselves so much heavy lifting to do as far as the roster is concerned in the draft that there are some people that believe they're going to punt on 2025 and that they're looking at this year as just a transition year. They'll never publicly admit that, whether they feel that way privately or not. We probably will never know. Couple other notes around the 49ers today. Once upon a time, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan were adamant that the Niners would never appear on HBO's series Hard Knocks. Lynch told KMBR last week, or I should say not last week, in 2023, when he was asked if the Niners would ever do Hard Knocks. He said, never. That's awesome. Never, after saying that HBO had previously made an attempt to feature the Niners. Lynch doesn't want to do it. Shanahan doesn't want to do it. It used to be teams were previously exempt from being forced to participate in Hard Knocks if they met one of the 3 following conditions. They have a first-year head coach. If you had a first-year head coach, you didn't have to do it. If you made the playoffs in either of the last 2 years, you didn't have to do it. And then if they appeared on Hard Knocks within the last 10 years. Okay, so, the 49ers obviously don't have a first-year head coach. They did make the playoffs in either of the last 2 years. And they have never appeared on Hard Knocks. So I guess they would be exempt under the old rules because they made the playoffs 2 years ago. But the league changed those conditions this year, according to Albert Breer from SI. The eligibility for Hard Knocks training camp has been amended to the following. You can be on the show if you do not have a first-year coach. So the 49ers do not. You can be on the show if you're not a member of the division that's going to be featured in Hard Knocks in season. So basically it says is not a member of the division to be featured in Hard Knocks in season for such upcoming season, or a member of the division to be featured in the immediately subsequent season has not been featured in Hard Knocks. So training camp in the previous 8 seasons. And also, unless the NFC West is selected to be this year's featured division, the Niners then would be eligible to be selected as this year's training camp subject. Now, I'm a little bit torn on this because as a fan of the series of Hard Knocks, damn right I want the Niners to be on Hard Knocks. It'd be awesome. Are you kidding me? It's the best show I think there is around the NFL. It's real. It gives you a real glimpse at training camp, a real glimpse at the offseason last year with the New York Giants. It provides some really, really interesting moments if the access is granted. The one year the Raiders did it, they granted so little access that they ruined it. They literally ruined Hard Knocks for everybody that year because they just showed us nothing and just said, we'll give them nothing and they'll like it. So that was the Raiders, being very Raider-esque, not playing along with the program. But other than the Raiders season, I think it's been a really enjoyable series. Heck, last year, the off-season one with the New York Giants provided us with a nugget where we saw Joe Shane telling Saquon Barkley that they weren't going to pick up his option and that he had a right to go shop his wares elsewhere. And then he did, and he went to the Eagles in the division. Oh, yeah, and then the Giants sucked. And, yeah, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. And Joe Shane and Brian Daboll have been regretting that decision ever since, I'm sure. So the Niners want to avoid that, and I understand that. I understand why they would want to avoid. I wouldn't want my team on there if I was a coach or general manager because it makes other teams privy to your kind of the pecking order of your decision making, your methodology, a little bit of insight into what makes you tick, what makes you go, what you prioritize as a staff, as a scouting staff, as a coaching staff, as a medical staff. It just this is, you're battling against all these teams. Now you're going to give them all this inside information about how you do business inside your building. I don't know if I like that. But if the Niners really are going to have to be made to do this show, because they canceled the rule that says that if you made the playoffs in each of the last 2 years, then I would say this is probably the year to do it, right? This is probably the year to do it, because you're not, it's going to take you got a lot of young players. It's going to take a Herculean effort, most likely, to get to the Super Bowl this year. If you've ever had a throwaway year, when you look at all the dead cap you have this year, it's probably this year. So maybe the Niners ought to just tell HBO, because HBO wants to pick them. They've got all kinds of great stories. They've got some of the NFL's best players. They're in a major market. They're an iconic franchise. They haven't been on before, blah, blah, blah. If the Niners called HBO's executives right now and said, hey, put us in, we'll do it this year, they would be on. They would basically tell these other teams, you know what, we're going to go with the Niners, because that's how much the Niners are coveted. That's for all the reasons I just laid out. Shanahan doesn't want to do it. Lynch doesn't want to do it. But if you do it this year, in a year where, you're kind of in a transition year, at least you get it out of the way, right? You get it out of the way. Then next year, if you're a real Super Bowl contender, you don't have to deal with it. The year after that, you're a real Super Bowl contender, you don't have to deal with it. So you may want to do it now just to get it out of the way, because they're coming for you at some point. And maybe this is the spot. Or maybe there's so much pressure on Lynch and Shanahan internally, coming off of a 6-win season, that they'd rather do any other year but this year. To me, it's probably one or the other. Either the Niners will look at this year as, we've got tons of pressure and all kinds of, the walls are falling down on the regime, and people are starting to ask about, are we going to get this done? And this is kind of a tenuous time. There's a lot of pressure. Maybe Lynch and Shanahan don't think this is the perfect time to avoid it. You know what? Screw that. We'll just keep kicking it down the road, and when they make us, they'll make us. That could be their approach. Or they could look at it as, hey, you know what? We're in kind of a transition year. It's probably not our Super Bowl year. Let's just do it this year and get it out of the way. Either way, from a competitive standpoint, I hope they never do it. From a fan standpoint, I hope they do it this year. I want to see it. I want to be able to watch the Niners on Hard Knocks. I think it's a really great series, and I would love to see them on there. All right, so that's one of the other stories today is that the 49ers may wind up on HBO's Hard Knocks, and if they do, we could see it. We could see it this summer, and that would be cool. A couple other Niner notes. Georgia defensive lineman Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins has met with the 49ers, according to Jordan Schultz. Ingram-Dawkins is gaining buzz as a potential day 2 pick. He had a great combine. I mean, this is like one of the mistakes to steer clear of, I think. He's 6'5", he's 276 pounds. He had awesome elite numbers at the combine. 36-inch vertical, 10.4 broad jump, both tops among all defensive tackles. He's Robert Beal, all right? Georgia winds up with a bunch of guys. The guys who are good get on the field. The guys who aren't good, don't. But they're still talented. They're still 5 stars. They're still fast. They're still strong. They still have great workout numbers. It's Georgia, for crying out loud. They recruit the best of anybody in the country. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, LSU, they got just dudes hanging. I mean, there's just guys hanging around who are really good. But then there's also the guy who works out great, but he's not good. And that's this guy, Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. Steer clear of this guy. 6'5", 276 pounds, looked great at the combine. He didn't play. He never played this year. He looked pretty good in Mobile, running around at practice. But once again, I mean, how many guys do you need to draft from Georgia who have awesome measurables who can't play dead? You just drafted Robert Beal. He's 6'4", he's 260, he runs under 4.5. What's he done? What's he accomplished? What's he produced? Nothing. So steer clear of Ingram-Dawkins. He's big and strong and fast and athletic. Looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. This guy didn't play. And when he did play, he didn't play well. So sorry, somebody's going to make a huge mistake on day 2 of the draft by drafting a guy who should be taken in the 5th or 6th round like Robert Beal was. At least the Niners took Beal at the appropriate spot in the draft. If somebody takes this guy Ingram-Dawkins in the 2nd or 3rd round, they've got to be high. This guy's absolutely a workout freak who isn't much of a football player. So we look for that. The team that drafts Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins in the 2nd day of the draft is a team that doesn't know what they're doing. Just mark that down. I don't know what team it will be, but I will guarantee you, if somebody takes that guy on day 2 of the draft, put that team down officially as they don't know what they're doing. And I'd almost be willing to bet anything that it will be a team where that won't be a crazy claim. It won't be Baltimore. It won't be the Niners. It won't be the Eagles. It won't be the Chiefs. It won't be. It'll be one of these other teams that doesn't do personnel all that well. There you go. Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, avoid at all costs. Talk as he's going on day 2. One other Niner note. Tomorrow is the local pro day. I will be in Santa Clara tomorrow to see all the local pro hopefuls who are going to be in the house. We're getting some indications of guys who are going to be there. Guess who's going to be there? Teddy Buchanan, former St. Ignatius Wildcat, former Cal Bear. So I may have to pull Teddy Buchanan aside for a little go Cats, get 'em Cats, go get 'em Cats. Also, Alec Ayamanor, Stanford's wide receiver, and San Jose State wide receiver Nick Nash. They're also among those expected to attend the Niners local pro day tomorrow. We don't know if they'll work out, but expect to see Alec Ayamanor, Teddy Buchanan, and Nick Nash. Will Noel Williams be there? That's one of the guys I really would like to see there. I'm a big fan of Noel Williams. A lot of people are trying to keep track of who have been the 30 visits for the Niners. Every team in the NFL gets 30 visits. 30 guys can fly into their own facility. Generally, they're guys that you like. Among the 49ers 30 visits reported so far, a lot of D linemen. Mike Green, the edge rusher from Marshall. Landon Jackson, edge from Arkansas. Mikael Williams, edge from Georgia. Walter Nolan, D tackle from Ole Miss. Omar Norman Lott, D tackle, Tennessee. TJ Sanders, D tackle, South Carolina. A lot of defensive guys on their 30 visits. Pretty much gives you an indication they're probably going defensive line. Now, there's a couple offensive linemen on there as well. Kelvin Banks of Texas. I hope they steer clear of Kelvin Banks. Not a fan. Miles Frazier of LSU. If you said to me the Niners are going to draft 2 offensive linemen, I could see Frazier being their day 2 or day 3 offensive lineman that they choose. Why? Because he's played both right tackle and left tackle. He's played both right guard and left guard. He's got good size at 6'5", 325. Came out of an awesome program, solid contributor, good character. That's what they're looking for in the backup offensive lineman that they take. They're probably going to look for one guy who can start. They'll probably take one between day 1 and day 2. And then my guess is they'll take 1 or 2 more on day 3. And Miles Frazier, I'm hoping Willie Lampkin is on that list, but I really believe Miles Frazier is a high likelihood player for the Niners to draft because that's what they're looking for in their second offensive lineman that they draft in the draft, is somebody who can play all over the place. And Frazier can do that. Another guy that I think is highly likely to be a 49er. I mean, these 2 tight ends, I think, are guys that the Niners really like. One is Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green, who is much more like a running back. He's a running back type receiver. He's a shortish tight end who's really good, run after the catch, and he's got great hands. Great hands. So Harold Fannin Jr. was an NCAA leader in both reception yards and receptions from Bowling Green. He's on their 30 visit list. And the other name is Jalen Conyers. And Conyers is interesting because he was Ricky Pearsall's teammate at ASU and then transferred and finished up at Texas Tech. And Conyers is really interesting because he's 6'4", 260, and is both a receiver and a blocker. Probably going to be a 4th or 5th round pick, but Jalen Conyers, I think, is probably buddies with Ricky Pearsall, and maybe that would be a popular combination to reunite those two former ASU Sun Devils. Couple other 49er notes, or we should say maybe one other 49er note, or two other 49er notes. Jordan Reed, who's an NFL draft analyst, tweeted out his all underrated list of offensive players. And man, there's some good ones on this list. He's got Kyle McCord, the quarterback from Syracuse, Brashard Smith, the running back from SMU, who's electric, one of my favorite players in the draft. Super electric running back who can catch the ball to the backfield and be a receiver. He also could be a special teams dynamo. Jalen Royals from Utah State, very underrated wide receiver. I spent some time last night doing the deep dive on Royals, and I love Jalen Royals. Love him. Absolutely love him. I can't believe I like a player this much from Utah State, but yeah, Jalen Royals really looks good. Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame, tight end, according to Jordan Reed, all underrated team. Jalen Travis, a tackle from Iowa State, not familiar with him. Miles Frazier, who we just discussed, the guard from LSU, and Jake Majors, the center from Texas. We'll see if Jordan Reed puts out his all underrated defense. Look for that next, but didn't see that today. But I agree with several of those. Jalen Royals, Brashard Smith, Mitchell Evans, Miles Frazier, I think would all be very, very good picks. Also, the 49ers hold the 7th most valuable draft capital in the league this year. You say, who's got the most draft capital? Who's got the least? The least draft capital this year is Minnesota. They have 4 picks, 24, 97, 139, and 187. The Commanders are second least. They have 5 picks, 29, 61, 128, 205, 245. And then the Steelers have the third least, and then the Lions and Rams. So it's good to see between the Vikings, the Commanders, the Lions, and the Rams, you got 4 NFC playoff contenders. The Eagles are also low draft capital. They're in the bottom half of the league. The Eagles are 26th, Atlanta's 27, Rams are 28, Lions are 29, Commanders are 31, Vikings are dead last, 32nd. Who has the most draft value? Well, it's the Browns. The Browns picked 2, 33, 67, 94, 104, 179, 192, 200, 216, 255. They have the most draft capital, followed by Jacksonville, New England, the New York Giants, Titans, the Raiders, and then the Niners. Niners have pick 11, 43, 75, 100, 113, 138, 147, 160, 227, 249, and 252. So the Niners have the 7th most draft capital of any team in pro football. Also, NFL draft odds, and this might be something that interests 49er fans. Are the Niners going offensive line? Are they going defensive line? Are they going to go corner? Jedi Barron is the guy most often mocked to them. But this is kind of interesting as well. LSU's offensive tackle, Will Campbell, is right now a slight betting favorite over Missouri's offensive tackle, Armand Membu, to be the first lineman drafted. Campbell is a minus 125 favorite. Membu's odds are minus 105. So this is interesting. I'm looking at the mocks, and, I think there's a chance that New England at 4 goes offensive line because they just drafted Drake May, and they're going to try to support Drake May with an offensive lineman. Now, they could go Membu, but Membu's more of a right tackle. They could go Will Campbell. He's a left tackle, but he's got 33-inch arms, and some people are scared away by that. I think when push comes to shove, New England is going to say, you know what? Will Campbell did it in the SEC against all the best edge rushers in the best conference in college football, and he was great. So if it's good enough for him to get it done in the SEC and be great, then it's good enough for us. My guess is New England takes Will Campbell with the 4th pick overall. Now, I'm reading this and it says, hey, if this happens and Campbell goes before Membu, there's a chance Membu is still on the board at 11. Yeah, there's a chance. But, there's other teams there that might want Membu as well, including the Jets. The Jets have a major need at right tackle. They pick in front of the 49ers. So Campbell could go 4, but Membu could go 7 to the Jets. And then the 49ers are sitting there at 11, having to decide, do they want to go with Kelvin Banks, or more likely, do they try to go with on the defensive side of the ball? And I think they'll probably go on the defensive side of the ball. And one last note, one guy who I do, I've had a couple different people say to me, man, the Niners are going to go after Benjamin Morrison, the Notre Dame corner. Now, he missed most of last season. He had a hip labrum repair. He didn't participate in the combine. He didn't participate in Notre Dame's pro day. So, there's a lot of unknowns with Benjamin Morrison, but he is considered to be an outstanding corner. He's going to work out for teams in an individual workout now on Monday, April the 21st, just days before the NFL draft. So of the Monday of draft week, this guy is going to work out at his high school in Arizona, Brophy Prep. His father, Daryl Morrison, played safety for the Washington Redskins and is now the team chaplain of the Arizona Cardinals. So I would imagine the Cardinals will probably try to grab this kid. But he's a really good corner, very high, productive interceptor, takes the ball away, good size, well coached. I thought Notre Dame's secondary was the best in the country. I like Jordan Clark. I like Adon Schuler, who's not in this draft. And I like this kid, Benjamin Morrison, quite a bit. I think Notre Dame was the best coach team. I think their coach, is the best coach in college football. And I thought their special teams were incredibly great. Their defensive secondary was just absolutely nails. They played amazing coverage. They were well coached. So I really am a big fan of Benjamin Morrison. Now, he doesn't have crazy twitch. He doesn't have crazy durability. I'm a little concerned about that. But if you're just looking for a corner who could come in and start right away and replace Mooney Ward, I think Benjamin Morrison probably is near or at the top of that list. So he's going to work out for teams on April the 21st, a couple days before the draft. I don't think the Niners would take him in the first round, but I think there's a very good chance they could take him in the second round. And I think there's almost a high likelihood they would take him if he's there in the third round. I'm not sure where he's going to go. I think he was going to be a first round pick until the injuries, and, he's a great player. There's no question. He's a great, great player. Smart kid, dedicated, has his priorities in order. The fact that his dad's been the team chaplain for the Arizona Cardinals, he's wise, well beyond his years, and he was a damn good player. He physically is, on a scale of 1 to 10, he's more like a 7. I don't think he's quite what you're looking for. I'd like a little bit more dominant physical profile, a little longer arms, a little faster, a little bit more dominant. But, the Notre Dame kids typically achieve at their skill level or higher. They usually don't. They're usually not underachievers. If this guy achieves just to his skill level, I think you have a top tier NFL starting corner who could probably step in and play right away. And if the 49ers are looking for guys who can step in and play right away, and I'm sure they are in a number of spots, Benjamin Morrison could be very, very attractive to them, because I think he's going to be the kind of guy that's going to be able to step in and play right away. All right, there you go. There's your 49er update with some of the news around the Niners on this day, April the 8th. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. And thanks to Mancini's for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.